Email communications can be accomplished in a variety of ways. If you use a Gmail or Yahoo account from a PC, the email connection is generally made from within a web browser and uses HTTPS. But for larger organizations and for specific connections that you'll be required to make, a proper mail client is often required. For example, Outlook. These clients will use several different protocols. Here are the ones you should know for the exam. Okay, we have SMTP, POP3, and IMAP. SMTP, that is the Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, that sends email. When you send email from the email client, it goes to an SMTP server and is then sent off to its destination. That email server could be an ISP, or it could be supplied by your organization, either in-house or on the cloud. A good way to remember this acronym is to use the mnemonic device, send mail to people. The original default port for SMTP that we used forever was port 25, but in order to make use of an SSL or TLS encrypted session, you would use either 587 or 465 as the default secure ports. Which port you use will depend on the type of encryption used and which protocol your ISP or your administrator or you have selected. So that's the most common protocol used for sending mail. And then for receiving mail, we have POP3 and IMAP. POP3 is the Post Office Protocol version 3. It's very common. It's not the only type of POP, but it's definitely the most commonly used one. And it's used by email clients to retrieve incoming email from a mail server. The original POP port was 110, but for secure transmissions, the default port is 995. Then you also have IMAP, Internet Message Access Protocol. That's an email protocol that enables messages to remain on the email server so that they can be retrieved from any location. IMAP also supports folders so users can organize their messages as desired. IMAP email servers used port 143 for many years, and you still can, of course, but for secure transmissions, they use 993. And again, for all these secure ports, it's SSL and TLS that we're looking at that is used so often by so many protocols. Now, on the client side, we must specify the server name and the correct ports for both the sending and receiving of email. The protocols and ports must match exactly to the configuration of the email server or servers. Email clients include Microsoft Outlook, Thunderbird, and a host of others. And there's some secure email applications you might be interested in as well. You can also use the Gmail application to connect to separate accounts using these protocols, as long as you have a Gmail address. You can add on other POP or IMAP accounts. On the server side, there are several options available, including Linux and Microsoft Exchange, which can handle SMTP, POP3, and or IMAP, as well as HTTPS connections from web browsers and from mobile devices also by using Exchange ActiveSync, which is part of Exchange Online. But configuration of these email servers goes beyond the scope of the A+ exams. It's these ports and protocols and setting up these ports and protocols that you need to know. So let's take a look at an example of an Outlook configuration. Now, if you're working in Microsoft Outlook, and this video was recorded in 2018, Outlook will ask you for an email address, and it will try to auto-configure based on that email address and based on the domain in that email address, scanning to find the email servers. If it can't, then you'll have to put the information in manually, or you could click on Advanced and select to put it in manually. And so, for example, we could select a POP or an IMAP account and so on. Here we have a POP account, and the incoming mail server, that's the POP3 server, we have a name here, secure.davidprowse.com. Now, in some cases, the mail server might use a different name, like mail.davidprowse.com. In this case, I'm using the name secure to indicate that we have a secure server. That doesn't really make that much of a difference. What's important here is that we have it checkmarked. This server requires an encrypted connection, SSL, TLS, and the port we use for POP3 by default is 995, as we said here. And then for the outgoing mail, that's sending mail, our SMTP server happens to be the same name. That's the server name, and it's using port 465 in this case. So right now, those are the defaults that Outlook will select for POP3 accounts. 995 for the incoming POP3 server, and 465 for the outgoing SMTP server. So that's a little bit about how that works. But again, Outlook will try to auto-configure. You'll have to specify that you want to set this up manually, or if it fails to connect, you'll have to set up all this information manually. So again, you have to know the server name for the incoming mail and the outgoing mail, and the ports for each. Now, another example here. Here's a Gmail connection, and I have a Gmail account. And what I've done is I've added another account in there. So you can access other email accounts through your Gmail application as long as you have a Gmail account. So this is a separate one altogether. And over here, we have the username. And that's webmaster@dprocomputer.com, another one of my domains. The SMTP server we're using is secure.dprocomputer.com. Now, this is using TLS, and the port we're using is 587. So this is all going to depend on your ISP, or however your administrator set this up, or how you set it up if you're the email admin. But in some cases, it could be 465, or the insecure port 25. With some ISPs, TLS utilizes 587, and SSL utilizes 465, but it could be reversed. It all depends. And then generally 25 is considered insecure. So that's for sending mail, SMTP. Currently connected using 587 TLS. And here's the POP side of things. Same name, secure.dprocomputer.com. And the port, the same as before that we showed for Outlook, 995 for that webmaster account. So you can configure additional email addresses within Gmail and Yahoo and other services that you want to use and pull that information into the Gmail inbox. Or, like I say, a lot of companies are going to use Outlook as their client. So really, you should know how to do this in different platforms, multiple platforms. And definitely know those ports. SMTP, it's going to be 587 or 465. POP3, 995, IMAP, 993. So there's a little bit about the email protocols, and that's it for this video.